Welcome to the IB English A Language and Literature series. This is the second video in the part of deconstructing IB English Paper 1. So, today we'll be looking at how to write a strong introduction with SpongeBob. I know just how tedious writing introductions can be, so through the lens of SpongeBob, maybe we can analyze things and learn, but have a little bit more fun along the way. So let's get into it. Why is it important? I mean, to write an introduction, not to look at stuff through SpongeBob. So it's really important to write a good introduction to set the stage for your essay. It shows the examiner exactly that you understand the text type, the conventions, the purpose, the audience, and the context. It basically signals to them that you're literate enough to be able to analyze and deconstruct literature from a more broad perspective. Lastly, ending with a clear thesis statement that outlines the devices and effects is extremely important to be able to develop those points later in a body paragraph. So the introduction is basically your roadmap, and it's the first impression the examiner gets of your essay. So let's just quickly recap the structure of the introduction that we looked at in the last video. So what the introduction aims to do is introduce the text briefly, name the text type, mention the overall purpose of the article, and identify a target audience. Lastly, the introduction should also state a thesis that encapsulates the text's application of linguistic and visual features and how this achieves the author's intended purpose. So this is what we're going to be deconstructing today. So the first step in constructing an introduction is to introduce the text. Identify the text type. So is it an advertisement, an article, a speech? What sort of text type is it? And then next, talk about the author, publisher, and date of publication if that's available. So who was it written by, who was it published by, when was it published? Now take those three things and use that to provide some context, either historical, cultural, or situational context. Or if you're unable to determine that, write comment on very briefly the purpose of the text in your first sentence. So let's take a look at this example sentence right down here. In his entertaining 2023 cartoon published on the Daily Times, writer Mr. Krabs humorously narrates his experiences dealing with his arch nemesis, SpongeBob. So, of course, all of this is made up, it's entirely fictional, but let's just look at the sentence itself, ignoring the context. So, in his entertaining 2023, so we've given the date of publication right here as 2023. Cartoon, so this word right here, identifies the text type, and published on the Daily Times. I don't really know what the Daily Times is, I just made that up. But let's just take a look. It's directly giving the publisher. Here in a big green flag, it's saying published on, so that there's no debate as to where it was published. And then writer Mr. Krabs. So it's explicitly pointing out that the writer is a Mr. Krabs. And now we've basically fulfilled within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Within the first 13 words, we've fully fulfilled the first two bullet points. And in the next half of the sentence, it goes on to say humorously narrates his experiences dealing with his arch nemesis SpongeBob. So obviously in this context, I wasn't able to derive context from this photo right here. So what did I do? I managed to give the brief purpose of it. I said it humorously narrates Mr. Krabs' experiences dealing with his arch nemesis SpongeBob. So that's sort of what the first sentence does. It has three main goals: to identify the text type, identify the author, publisher, publication date, and so on, and provide a very, very, very little bit of context or a brief statement about purpose. Next, let's look at the second part. So we briefly stated what the purpose is. Now we have to establish it further and expand upon it. So what is the main purpose of the text is the first question you should ask yourself, and who is the intended audience is the second question you should ask yourself. So let's look at the example here. The cartoon seeks to entertain children aged between 8 to 12 by expanding the lore of the SpongeBob universe in a way that playfully subverts traditional interpretations of the well-known series. Okay, so we're looking at the main purpose of the text. The main purpose of the text is to entertain, and how does it achieve this? By expanding the lore of SpongeBob in a way that playfully subverts traditional interpretation of the series. Okay, so we've basically said what the main purpose is and how it achieves it within one sentence. Now, who is the intended audience? Well, it says children aged 8 to 12. So now you're signaling another big green flag to the examiner, saying that you understand both the purpose and who it's targeted towards. Let's move on. This is now the most important part. Step 3, writing your thesis. A clear thesis can help make clear, strong body paragraphs, so it's extremely important to have a strong thesis. In order to write a strong thesis, you first need to outline the purpose of the text once again and how the author achieves it. In your thesis statement, mention 3 devices that you will analyze. This personally was my thesis frame that got me a 7 in the end. It said holistically, through myriad literary features and visual features, the author's name employs feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 to intended effect. So this is an example for the SpongeBob section. Holistically, through myriad literary and visual features, Mr. Krabs employs hyperbolic diction, visual exaggeration, and ironic tone to heighten the humor of his grievances and engage his audience in a light-hearted critique of his nemesis. So in the pink here, we see the purpose of the text, to heighten the humor of his grievances and engage the audience. How the author achieves it is right here, through myriad literary and visual features. So the author uses literary and visual features to achieve their purpose. And the 3 devices I will analyze are diction, exaggeration, and tone. So that quite frankly summarizes exactly what I will be analyzing in the essay. So if you write something like this, then it sets you up very well to write the body of your essay. So now let's take a look at it in an actual IB context. So this is the example I had from the previous video. I won't go waste your time again by reading it all over again. If you want to read it, just pause the video and read it on the right hand side. But this is an introduction that I had written for the text on the left. Let's analyze it now. So the purpose of the introduction is to introduce the text briefly. So here, to introduce the text, we need to identify the text type, the author, publisher, and date, as well as provide context or purpose. So here we identify the text type as a persuasive advertisement. We say where it was published and when it was published. We say who published it, Bulova Accutron, and we state the purpose and context of that of the advertisement. So the company positioning itself as a symbol of technological innovation and modern prestige. That's basically the context and purpose. Now let's mention more deeply the overall purpose of the text. So here we go a little bit further into the context. A duration when it was precision engineering and space age advancements, and then the advertisements persuades. So this is back to the purpose. The middle class audience, that owning an Accutron is not a matter of utility but also status and sophistication. So we know the main purpose of the text is persuasion, and so we highlight it here in even more clear wording. We literally say the text's primary purpose is, and we flag to the examiner that we know exactly what it is. And next we needed to identify the target audience. As you can see, it says right here middle class audience, so using the word audience here flags to the examiner that you're writing the target audience. And lastly, when stating the thesis, we're looking at 3 things. So we're looking at the purpose and how the author achieves it, and the 3 literary devices. So the 3 literary devices are appeals to scientific authority, that's logos, technological imagery, and aspirational symbolism. So these are my 3 literary devices. The purpose here is to construct the watch as a revolutionary device and a marker of cultural prestige. And how does the author achieve that? Well, through myriad literary and visual features. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. You've now understood how to write an introduction and construct it a level 7 introduction from scratch that helps you set up your essay for future success. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you need any help in the comments down below.